We are joined once again by our friend Dr. David Samadi, Vice Chair, Department of Urology and Chief of Robotics and Minimally Invasive Surgery, Mount Sinai School of Medicine. Hello, Doc. How are you?
Hey, Steve. How are you? Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. It's always Happy Friday. We love Happy Friday. Good to talk to you. All right, so much to get to. So let's start with Angelina Jolie and her double mastectomy. It's the cover of Time magazine this week, the whole thing. And women, I understand, calls to hospitals and doctors went up, 2, 3, 4, quadruple, whatever fold after she made the announcement in the New York Times. Explain to me, I mean, I know all about the gene. I know about the history that her mother died of cancer when she was young. So she had it removed to lessen her chances. But she kept her ovaries, which I now understand she's also going to have out. But if women take the breasts off and keep the ovaries, then they have a chance of getting ovarian cancer, because removing the breast doesn't affect the ovarian cancer percentage, does it?
That's right. You're absolutely right. It doesn't. So, and also ovarian cancer is a much more aggressive cancer, as you know, than breast cancer. She's a very brave woman, actually. I never thought she would come out in public and talk about this, but she certainly has helped the field of breast cancer in the last week or so tremendously, and it brought a lot of attention to it. This gene that she has, which is the BRCA1, BRCA1 that she has, obviously it increases the risk of having breast cancer by 87%. Now, the other thing that you mentioned, which is very accurate, is the family history that she has, and that also increases the risk. So I have no doubt that in the near future, she's going to remove those ovaries because there's a chance of having ovarian cancer. What also they have done is that they could have put in the breast implant at the same time, but she has chosen to put in tissue expanders and go back in sometime near future and get the cosmetic surgery to make sure that she would look the way she looks. So I think it has a nice ending, the fact that it was removed and there's no sign of any cancer left behind, and she's going to have a great recovery.
Now, when and if she has her ovaries removed, that will immediately send her into menopause at her young age. Will she'll be able to overcome that with hormone therapy?
Yes, and there are also risks that comes with hormones, so there's no question that there's going to be some physiological changes. But look, we want to have her around than having this cancer, which is a deadly one, ovarian cancer or even breast cancer when it metastasizes. Yes, so there will be some uphill battles at a very young age of 37, but that's what it takes to be, cancer-free. Unfortunately, she has the risk and the genes for it, and she's brave enough to go through it, and I salute her. And that tells you also one of the things that we've spoken about, that screening and getting your test and your genes and mammograms are extremely healthy. Had she not done all of this, she would have been in a horrible situation, which will come to the later on when it comes to PSA screening for men.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but she has the wherewithal and the money. I mean, could any woman walk in and say, my mother had breast cancer, my sister had breast cancer, I want this gene test done. How much does it cost, and does insurance cover it?
A lot of insurances may or may not cover it. I'm not sure about the exact price of it. I'll be happy to get back to you on that. But yes, if there's a family history that's really strong, they should be able to get this test done.
Okay, let's move on to, let's move on quickly to the PSA. New recommendations, again, just like they came out with these recommendations, changing mammograms, they've been coming out with PSA recommendations that every man's going to get prostate cancer anyway, why check for it? And now they're putting a limit on it even more. They don't want men to get PSA blood tests basically at all.
Yeah, this was a big shocker, and we came back from San Diego. In fact, the day before we got to the national meeting in San Diego, American Urologic Association shocked everybody that no PSA under the age of 55. And of course, that increased a lot of anger among urologists, and that's going to send the wrong message to a lot of people out there. Without PSA, you're going to have a lot of men in their 40s and early 50s metastasize and have their cancer spread. Now, what they're saying is that checking the PSA through those ages can lead to some overdiagnosis and therefore overtreatment. And I think that's where we are having the problem. Overdiagnosis should not lead to overtreatment. And that's the reason why patients should know their PSAs and talk to the expert and find out when to do the surgery and when not to. With all the genetic tests that's coming also in the field of prostate cancer, major images, MRIs, will be able to distinguish and say, this gentleman needs surgery quickly, and this one we can sit tight.
Right.
But certainly giving the message of not getting tested, I think that's really bad message.
I just think it's also coincidental, doctor, that as we've talked about for years, that ever since they passed Obamacare, all these boards with all these recommendations, don't get tested, don't have a procedure, too costly, doesn't make sense. It just seems very tied in. But I want to hit you on salt before we run out of time.
No problem.
A new study showing, and maybe it's not as remarkable as it's being made out to be in the media somehow. I don't think anybody, and I'm not sticking up for Mayor Bloomberg because he would tell you not to eat any salt, I'm sure. But I don't think anybody believes that you shouldn't have any salt, because then you'd have a deficiency. But does this say that moderate amount of salt is good and a necessity, or does it say that you could even eat a little more salt and it's not so bad? What does it tell you?
Right now, what we have is that most Americans, we're getting about 3,400 milligrams of salt, which is almost double the amount that we actually need. And that's one of the reasons why the rate of high blood pressure is so high. Now, the American Heart Association recommends 1,500, which is half of that. I think there's a happy medium, and what this study is coming in and saying that if you're around 2,300, which is a teaspoon salt, you should be fine, and you don't really have to go all the way down to 1,500. I happen to agree that a certain amount of salt is absolutely important for your physiology, for your cells. So you don't have to take 3,400, and you don't need 1,500. A happy medium somewhere around 2,000 is enough. Now, where do we get most of that salt? With all the diet that we have, from bread to other things that we eat, we get that amount. So the big message to a lot of people out there is, you don't add any more salt to your food. You're getting enough, and if you start adding more, that's when you're going to get to high numbers, and that's when we're going to see a lot of high blood pressure.
Right,
so,
and if you eat out, you don't even know how much salt you're getting in the food. It's probably much more than if you cook at home, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, whatever, because they want it to be tasty in the restaurant. So, right, so don't add salt to anything, basically, and you'll probably be okay.
That's what I do, because you're already getting enough in everything, in your pasta, in your bread, in all the things that we have. We're getting enough. If you are one of those guys that has a salt shaker and is adding more, you're going to get into trouble.
Right, absolutely. And soup. Watch out for canned soup, because it's through the roof. All right, doctor, have a great weekend, my friend. Very informative. Thank you.
Great talking to you. Thank you
Take care.
so much.
My pleasure. Dr. David Samadi, ladies and gentlemen.